Welcome back to the Smoke and Mirrors podcast. We're your hosts, Rob and Triz. Today we have a very special presentation. Joining us today is actor, director, and producer Anupam Sharma. Essential in the collaboration between India and Australia's film efforts, Anupam has just released Brand Bollywood Downunder, which details the history of Bollywood, but also the efforts to understand each other's film industry and the challenges of making movie magic. Congratulations on the release, Anupam. How are you feeling?
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Triz. Yeah, releasing a film in Australian theaters is in itself a congratulatory thing. So I'll pass those congrats to our amazing distributor forum to distribute in over 40 theaters. An independent, self-funded feature documentary is, I mean, you can't support indie cinema more than that. So thanks to them, and I'll pass the congratulations to forum.
Sure thing. My first question. I know you've kind of sort of touched on it in the movie. You did a really great intro about the term Bollywood. How do you feel about the word?
Look, I mean, it depends how it is used. And that's the key. That's like with everything. You can use it or you can misuse it. So there are advantages of using the word Bollywood, because the moment you say Bollywood, it eludes and brings out all the images of larger than life music, song, and dance. But then if you use it to basically signify and denote all the film industry at one go, then it's really not on kind of thing.
Okay. So was there a sort of a journey to you getting comfortable with the term at all?
With no, look, I never looked at it in a really, what should I say, in a derogative way. So when I started, one of the first Indian born film graduates, that was a conversation starters. So I exploited it to the hilt, if it was hard. And it was hard because when I would go to film parties, with the icons like David Henning, probably one of the only Indian in an Australian film party, the conversations trigger would always be Indian films or Bollywood. And I didn't complain about that. So yeah, I never had any strong views about it. And probably that's one of the reasons why I wanted to include it in the film. And I'm so glad Anupam Kher gave us the amazing ending, that I hate it, and we are bloody idiots to have accepted it,
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, for my question, do you feel like in this current day and age that Bollywood films still hold strong to the idea of entertainment rather than exposition on screen?
Absolutely. The whole concept, the essence of Bollywood lies in entertainment and escape. As one of the subjects in my film says, let me be very clear, he says, Vivek Vaswani. And he's an iconic actor, producer. He says Indian popular Hindi cinema was not here to entertain you, not here to educate you, not here to enlighten you. It's simply here to entertain you. So many people, going through the daily rigmarole in India, in the evening when they come back, all they want to do is just escape. Whether it's a song and dance sequence in opera house, whether it's a song and dance sequence in Paris, whether it's a film set in, because they're escaping. And I'll give you a classic example. All of us have house helps in India. And my cook, who has been with us for 30 years, went back to India, and I gave him the ticket of a parallel art house film. And he came back and he was very angry. I said, what happened? He goes, why did you waste your money on me? I said, why? It's a beautiful story. He said, no, it was a story about a slum in Bombay. If I wanted to see slums, I would get out of my house and see it. I want to see it. He said, and they're so smart at Triz that in India, when a film comes on screen, it starts with a censorship certificate. And that has the number of reels written on it. So he looked at it and it's only got 12 reels. I'm talking about 10 years ago when digital was. I said, so he said, you wasted your time. It was a bloody 2-hour film. I wanted to see a 3-hour. So they want the maximum benefit out of it. They want 7 or 8 song and dance sequences. They want a bit of erotica. They want a bit of fighting. They want a bit of comedy, songs, dances, all for 3 hours because they want value for their money. Kind of thing. So exposition happens in Bollywood, which then doesn't make it Bollywood anymore and takes it to art house or parallel cinema. or what is now being called very fondly in India, there's a new term in India called multiplex films. Now, these are films which play in multiplex theaters in major metropolitan screens, and they are for the more discerning, the educated audience. But the beauty
Right.
is that because of the population of India, even if 3% of the discerning audience are watching your film, you're running into a profit. Because
Yep.
we're just discussing at the panel at Asia Pacific Screen Awards, at any given time, 13 to 16 million people, very close to the population of Australia, is sitting in theaters in India every day.
Wow.
So,
That's huge.
for the exposition, the moment the exposition happens, then you go into the red wine discussion territory for the educated and the bourgeois in the metropolitan. They are the multiplex cows. They go to multiplexes where nothing dissimilar to a dandy doing a red carpet for Bollywood Down Under. They would discuss the things. And these are films about LGBTQ communities. These are films against corruption. These are films about West, about India, about documentaries. And so the moment you go into exposition, you go into that genre, which still is very popular and still has its audience.
Nice.
That's amazing. I really loved in the film. You didn't start where there were movies being made in Australia. You started all the way at the beginning, which was perfect for me because I needed an education in Indian cinema. I had never watched a film before, but you kind of break down the different things that make an Indian film so unique to itself. Um, so when these films sort of launched in Australia, what was the thing that you think clicked for Australian audiences and why they started embracing Indian film?
So there are two aspects to the word embrace, Rob. One is embracing them as a novelty, watching them shoot in on our streets, and then going to the theater. Oh, I was there when these 50 dancers were dancing in Opera House. Let's go and see what it is. And the other embrace, the definition of embrace, is regularly going to them. So regularly going to theaters is majoritively done by the Indian diaspora, which a few months ago became the biggest diaspora in Australia after the Brits. Forget Chinese,
Yep.
forget Italians, forget everyone. Indians are now statistically the biggest diaspora after the Brits. And on top of that, you add the Indians, which have come here from Fiji, from Kenya, from South Africa. So there's a huge diaspora. And no matter how long, how far away from India you or your ancestors have lived as an Indian, you have always had the connection to India through cinema. Because in India, cinema also means music, also means the songs which come with it, also means the dialogues, which are like a Clint Eastwood favorite dialogues from Hollywood, and you live up. It's a subculture. It's part of your culture. So these are the people who embrace, and that is why over the last 2 or 3 years, when a foreign film releases even a Punjabi language film, which is a regional language film in India, they release it in mainstream theaters here, they are touching $1 million box office. And those are the people who are embracing these kinds of cinemas. The other people who are embracing are the non-Indian audience who may go in once in a while to watch a Bollywood film. And my documentary is meant for those people because they have always heard the word Bollywood. When they Google, they see 3.2 billion searches in 0.2 seconds on the word Bollywood, but they don't know what it is all about. So what we did,
Yep.
as you rightly started with your question, what we did was we went to the essence of storytelling. And we all know what's the essence of storytelling. Once upon a time. And that is how we started, and that's why Sonia, who is our thing, she goes, if you want to understand, you have to go back right to the beginning, the very beginning, because I wanted people to understand, especially my Australian friends who are not of Indian origin, to understand why India is such a passionate consumer of moving images. And the reason why they are is because moving images replaced the stories they were hearing for 5,000-6,000 years. They came to life, as the Oscar-nominated director Ashutosh Gowricker says. We grew up on stories from our mothers, from our grandmothers. When cinema came to India, all these stories became alive. And keep in mind, India doesn't have a pub culture or a rock band culture or so this, when cinema came to India, it was perfect for everyone. For the poor, it was something, they were sharing with the rich in a big dark theater. For the higher caste, it was from the West, so that was good enough for them. For the rich, it is something they were partaking in over a glass of red wine. So suddenly in this dark theater, a heavily complex and diverse society of India became equal, with all focused on one aim: to escape, dream, and share this, larger than life society. So that's kind of one of the reasons why people embrace in India and in Australia, and they keep on embracing it. The audience is not falling down.
No, not at all. I love the story about the Greek cinema that would then get these films, and the 2,500 capacity theater would just be sold out with a
Right?
mainly Greek audience.
Can you imagine that, Rob? I mean, Triz, you were saying being fly on the wall at some of these things. Imagine being fly on the wall in the 1960s in Melbourne Town Hall, watching Bollywood stars sing and dance, but not a single Indian in the audience, all Greeks. And that, I always say, in spite of the funniness of this, in spite of the uniqueness of it, this is where I believe the heartbeat of Australia lies. Amazing diversity at its best, with no judgment and different layers. Greeks enjoying Bollywood cinema in the Melbourne Town Hall in Australia, where the White Australia policy is just about to end. You can't get better than that.
Yeah. Tell me about it, because we're actually from South Africa,
Okay.
which has a massive Indian culture and influence on the country itself. It's
You gave us Gandhi.
like
Without you guys, wouldn't have had Gandhi. If you wouldn't have stopped him traveling in first class, if we wouldn't have gone to Apart, we wouldn't have had Gandhi. He would probably have been a rich solicitor somewhere in Cape Town. So thank you.
It took us to come to Australia to get exposed to Indian films and Bollywood films. So it's amazing watching it, and the influence and how sprawling the impact is.
It is, and it's as I say in the film, it's part of every culture. You've got reality shows, you've got Christmas themed Bollywood parties, you've got events, you've got Bollywood classes in every suburb and dance class. And the reason is pretty simple, Rob, because Bollywood is pure entertainment without judging anything. It is all about color, all about music, all about celebration, all about and no matter which culture, which race you belong to, these are some things which are essentials to humanity. We all love celebrating. We all love a color. We all love music, and it just combines it all. Without the need to get drunk, or without the need to gamble money, without the need to put someone down, without the need to feel elitist. You get rid of all the negative things and just indulge in pure celebration, and that's why Bollywood is so vast and expansive, and all over the world.
Yeah. Graduated high school in Derridin and then completed your bachelor's and master's here in Australia. Do you feel like your perspective has changed when creating film here because of that?
Yes, it has, but it has a lot. But it has changed for the better, in the sense that I feel I'm kind of, with the exposure to the wonderful cinema of Australia. I'm appreciative of different kinds of cinema. In the sense, I would appreciate Bollywood because I grew up on it. But after I did my master's thesis on Bollywood from University of New South Wales, I could appreciate it with a reason. And I could see that it was not fanatical, it was more educated celebration, which means I could also look at other aspects of cinema, which means I could identify the most sensible part of Bollywood cinema, the cinema with social impacts in it, but without getting rid of the songs and dances. And it is that perspective, Triz, which helped me structure this documentary and write it along with my co-writer, Karen, who edited it as well. Because I would then kind of peel off the layers which I thought are important to peel off for the Western audience. Layers like, why is there an intermission? Or why are they so long? Or why there are songs and dances in it? Why do they go abroad? So it's very important. And when I was looking for an editor, by stroke of luck, we got Karen. My only condition was that you should not know anything about Bollywood and you should not have any Indian origin. Because if two people of Indian origin are talking together, we might end up talking in coded terms, alienating my target audience, which is you, Rob, and you, Triz. So I wanted a real bridge, and that's why she and I just made it a perfect team. I was so much into Bollywood that I could lose the perspective, and she was not into Bollywood at all, so she could keep the perspective. So yes, the
Okay.
perspective changed, but it changed for the better. It became richer, and that is why I was able to make this film without boring anyone.
No, this film was absolutely beautiful. Like walking into this, I was very much the same as Rob, where I had no experience with Bollywood films before. And this it leaned towards philosophy as well as just a lot of passion for the culture and a lot of love for the people. And it was so good to see, especially like Rob said, with us coming from South Africa and the things that had happened there too. Seeing so much love for passion and culture in your people as well is something I definitely strive for and enjoy looking at too.
And that's about it. Even when we dealt with, as you would have seen, when we dealt with a bit of controversy in Victoria, and Karen and I, my creative team, we said, no, we're not making a 7:30 report or a Four Corners. It's not an investigative film. And with a documentary, you can't script it. So we had to find ways. So we quickly came out of it. And that is where the whole concept of Bollywood voice started, because I didn't want a voice of God, but I said, let's give Bollywood a voice. And that's when she says, while you were talking about policies and using and misusing, you forgot to see the big picture, guys. I've become an Australian like every migrant.
Yeah.
I come in, you doubt me, you judge me, and then you embrace me. And this is what we have done with Italians, Greeks, Indians, Chinese, South Africans. And so suddenly, for me, the penny dropped that Bollywood is a part of a subculture. And that was an amazing feeling, because then we could end it at a poignant note. And I must mention, guys, that are so overwhelmed, with people like Dave Patel and Emil Sherman and Nicole Kidman. All their agents gave us permission to use their clips within days, because they knew that we are doing something celebratory. Even with India, we have the biggest stars and some of the biggest films, and 90% of that, because as an Australian documentary, I couldn't afford to pay them $250,000 for 5 seconds. Most of it is free, because they knew that we are, and one of the biggest purpose of this film is to leave a legacy behind. So next time, if anyone wants to hear about Bollywood, they have to watch the film. We've got study guides being made, so students know about it. And that was the kind of the whole purpose, and I'm glad that we were able to, as you rightly said, just end it in a celebratory way, the way it has ended.
Perfect. With the co-production audio-visual treaty between India and Australia on the horizon, what are you most excited but also cautious about should a brand new production go ahead?
So I'll start with the negative first, so that we end with a positive note of this answer. I'm very cautious about how the people from India will treat it, because their style of working is not as structured in Australia. So my biggest I'm really cautious about how the two film cultures will meet. I always say we are the most prolific, most professional film industry in Australia. If you look at film schools per capita, and India is the most prolific. So while the marriage between the two is a win-win, it could also mean a rocky marriage kind of thing, So how do they treat with it? And and this cautiousness goes to various layers, Rob. It also means that in India, according to Indian labor laws and Indian unions, a production assistant gets paid $20 for a day. In Australia, the same production assistant gets paid $200 for a day. So how are you going to work with those things? But I'm sure where there's a will, there's a way. We will kind of, transcend those things. And just like all collaborations, we will look for positive things. And the positive things are so many. There are so many beautiful Indian stories in Australia. And look at it this way. You guys are film gurus. You write and talk and speak about films. The 2 or 3 biggest things or lack of things we whinge about in Australia for our film industry is lack of private investment, a global audience, and diversity. Right? The moment the 3 of us make an Australian film with India, we suddenly cover all these 3 drawbacks into benefits. We make a diverse film. The moment it's India-centric, You get one of the world's most passionate film consuming audience base as your target audience, even if all of them don't like it. It's about 1.4 billion. I'm happy with just 10% liking it around the world. It's still 5 times the size of Australia. And the third most important thing is investment. Even this Brand Bollywood Downunder has received substantial investment from UK, India, America, for the simple reason that Indian investors are cash rich. The number of millionaires by US dollars in India equals to the population of Australia and New Zealand combined, in spite of the poverty. Because again, 1.4 billion people, I'm sure they have, 30 million millionaires kind of thing. But most importantly, most of the rich people in India, like around the world, are passionate about contributing to the arts. Now, these are the people who would invest in films, but the poor guys and gals have been burned because they would invest in a $3 million film in India, which is done so chaotically. They are not sure of their returns. They're not sure even the film will get made. The same $3 million, when they are talking to Australia, first of all, 40% of that is guaranteed back to them because of the producer office. Secondly, we have got such a wonderful, ethical, professional, transparent way of making films in Australia that their investment is further secured. It's still risky. Filming is risky. Thirdly, history has proven that any India-centric Western film, which is made with my favorite formula of Western body and Indian soul, has not had an 80 or a 90%, but a 100% track record. And you can pick up any films from the 60s, Monsoon Wedding, Bend It Like Beckham, or current ones like Lion, Hotel Mumbai, Can I Slip in Mine, Un-Indian, or The Namesake, or any of those films, Best Exotic Marigold, Life of Pi, you pick up any film. So what this co-production treaty will do, it will make it much more easier for me, give me the luxury of more choice of Indian creatives to make a really good Australian story, which is India-centric. And that is what I'm looking for. And that will make Australian film culture richer. It will make our Australian film industry more profitable. Lion has proved it. Look at, one of the most profitable Australian films ever.
Wow.
Apart from Crocodile Dundee, that's something huge.
That's massive. Yeah. 100%.
Now, when you had your recent interview with The Curb, right, you discussed how you really pulled out all the stops for Bollywood Down Under by implementing all the structure that is present in a Bollywood film. Do you feel like nowadays with that format, it's a lot more digestible in this day and age?
So look, digestible is an acquired taste. If you like Thai food, you would want it spicy. So the digestion, it depends on individual taste. But going back to your question, what I really wanted to do was pay homage to Bollywood, not just in content, but also in form.
Yeah.
The form of the film. And that is why, while I would change the form of the film, I made sure that it's digestible by providing not a dumbed down explanation, but a tongue-in-cheek explanation. A classic example is intermission. So we have the intermission in our film. The intermission stays there for 10 seconds. And someone not used to Bollywood say, by the time they're ready to question what the hell is on the screen, we have a voiceover which starts. So this intermission is something unique. Now the voiceover is not dumbing down anyone, saying, oh, this is intermission and this is why we had it. She just says it in a casual way. It's so important. It is how we grow up things. You go and get a samosa, you go and get things. And from then on, we move to Jane Smith saying, look, you know what? It's not just and with the subtext there, it's not just the samosas or the chai or the cold drinks or the intermission. We really need to understand this. So yes, I think it will be digestible because we have made the butter chicken for a Western palate. We have made sure you can digest it. We make sure, I don't know if I can use the word, but I'm going to use it anyway. We make sure you don't get the runners after having spicy Indian food. So we have kind of introduced you to it. And I hope they like it, even if they don't like it, because it's a documentary, because it's more informative and educative. At least the subtextual absorption by the audience will be, oh, okay, we get it. That's why they have intermission. Oh, we get it. That's why they have music even for the sad bits. Oh, we get it. That I was able to do because it's a documentary. And you're right. If this would have been a feature film, I would have trouble trying to use a Bollywood style for both style of audiences.
Okay.
Perfect. I love the intermission, by the way. I've only ever experienced one intermission in my life, and that was recently. So Rob and I attended Good in Newtown at Dendy with David Tennant. And they had the intermission in there, and we went out, went to go grab some snacks. It was perfect. It was a nice little refresher before getting back into it.
Yeah.
So there's a movie convention going on, and the CEO of Palace Cinemas made a comment on LinkedIn the other day, and I responded. He said, "Why can't we have intermissions back? Because I think one of the films which is out with Leonardo DiCaprio, the Moon, I've forgotten the name, the
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Killers of the Full. That's so long that everyone is saying we should have intermission. And intermission is so good for economy as well, because you go out, you have a break, you stretch it. And funnily, all Bollywood films are written with the aim to have the intermission at the second plot point of the second act, so the people are left holding. It's like a prelude to the next episode on a Netflix series if you're binge watching. And so if you make this post about intermission, you would see how many people have said, we need intermission.
Definitely, yeah.
I 100% would have loved an intermission with the year of cinema that we've had, especially with Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, both over 3 hours. It would have just played so well for me, especially if we go out, get a samosa or something, would be awesome.
Only for the sake of your kidneys, man. I mean, if you've been drinking Coke or beer, sitting there for 3 hours, not having a toilet break, it's harmful. I'm sure some doctor will call it harmful for your kidneys.
I think so too. That's a marathon in its own right.
After 4 beers and the cold air condition in every theater,
yeah.
Yep.
If you've had 4 beers and cold air conditioning, you're an Olympic athlete if you can hold it that long. Anupam, thank you so much for your time and energy, and congratulations again on the release of Brand Bollywood Downunder. It's out now in cinemas and part of the Dendy Bollywood Film Festival. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. And especially as an indie filmmaker, we rely on professional support of rock stars like you to spread the word around. So we really appreciate taking the time out and including me in your podcast. And thanks from all my cast and crew.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Anu.